have a limited amount of days, hours, minutes, seconds on this earth. How do you want to spend that time? A lot of people have to spend that time doing things they don't like. One of the things that hold people back the most is the fact that they don't have enough money to do the things that they want. Once you understand the machine, you can understand when to invest, how to invest, and how to play the cycles.
That's podcast. Tap in. That's it. Subscribe.
Hello. Welcome back to episode 17 of the STU STREET Podcast. Today, I'm your host, Arkash, Jain, and with me is Samson Abrams. Samson, how you feeling?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been excited about this for a few weeks, so I'm excited to finally start to talk about what I'm passionate about, talk to you, talk to Mike, etc.
Absolutely, man. So just as a quick update, actually, we got a new co-host, Mike. Come to the screen, buddy. For those of you listening, Mike just waves to the screen. But he's going to be our new guest host in the future, so stay tuned for some of his episodes that are going to come out. And yeah, Sam couldn't be here, unfortunately, so it's just going to be me talking today. But yeah, Samson, give them the elevator pitch, buddy.
Okay, so how is everyone doing? My name is Samson Abrams. I'm a sophomore, class of 2025 in Questrom. So my big thing that I'm very passionate about is financial education. So I feel that all of a sudden, when I look around at the curriculum in Questrom, the curriculum in business schools across the nation, curriculum in high school, there's a lot of valuable information, a lot of valuable classes, a lot of great resources. But one thing that's lacking is a practical education. So one thing that I think is so important that I've noticed that is not represented is financial education. And so it's been kind of my journey for the past 3 years, since around September of 2019, to teach people about finance and to make sure that people that are my age, college students, even people older, people younger, know about finance and can build reliable sources of income for themselves that they don't have to exactly work for, or listen to someone, or go to an office to obtain.
That sounds like a fascinating story, because every time I talk to you, every time I meet you, it's like a 10-minute conversation about what's going on with the markets every time. It's like, hey, Samson, how's it going? Hi, Arkash, how's it going? I invested in this stock, or, I had a thesis on high yield bond debt or something. So I know that you're super passionate about finance, but let's take a step back. Why did you choose finance? What got you into this industry?
Okay, that's a great question. So I started investing in my junior year of high school. That's 2019. So I went to a world famous high school called LaGuardia High School. LaGuardia High School has nothing to do with business, nothing to do with math, nothing to do with science. The people that graduated from LaGuardia High School are some of the biggest entertainers today. Nicki Minaj graduated from LaGuardia High School. Jennifer Aniston graduated from LaGuardia High School. Al Pacino graduated from LaGuardia High School. We have kids that go to LaGuardia High School that are actors. They go to Hollywood on their vacations and they star in movie roles, or that they make mixtapes. So it has nothing to do with anything related to business. But one day when I was in school, and at LaGuardia High School, I pursued piano. I'm a jazz pianist. I was sitting in Spanish class, and my Spanish teacher, Mr. Fernandez, he said to us, what is one skill that the school doesn't teach that's really important? And we were all sitting there, whatever. He said, stocks, investing, finance. That's something they don't teach you, because if they taught it to you, you would be able to find other ways to make money and other ways to educate yourself that don't involve coming to a school from 8 to 4, learning about this, going home, doing homework, spending time studying, and coming back the next day. So when he said that, the class started to talk a little. I started to kind of think, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I went home that day, talked to my family, did some research. I even signed up for a trading simulator on MarketWatch to try to practice, try to learn. And then coincidentally, a friend of mine that year approached me and asked me if I wanted to start an investment club. So I said, okay, so it was me, my friend, and my other friend who actually goes to BU. We started our own investment club at LaGuardia, and we kind of like the next year, I spent that summer learning everything I could about stocks, everything I could about investing, everything I could about bonds. Like, how does it work? What are the basics? Because that year I had to teach people. If you have to teach people, you have to know what you're talking about. So like that's what I did. I learned what I was talking about. So that year I taught at the club every Tuesday. We went on the I think the fourth or fifth floor of LaGuardia. We taught like what is this topic? How does stocks work? How can you start investing? So like it was all these kids that like wanted to be artists, wanted to be like entertainers, learning about finance. And one of the first things we ask people is, what is your why? Why do you want to do this? And I distinctly remember one person saying, I want to learn finance so I can continue my passion of playing the drums. Because artists, they don't make a lot of money normally. So like in order to make money, you have to have some sort of other income. A lot of people also give up on their dreams because they don't have the money to pursue their dreams. So like basically what we were doing was we were giving people a tool to pursue their dreams. Like if you think about it that way. And so after I was done teaching at LaGuardia, I wanted to keep doing it because it was so like it made me feel good that I was helping people, teaching other people. So like when I got to BU, I said, how can I continue to contribute? Like, what can I do? There's nothing I can really be the president of here, nothing I can found. We have all these great finance related clubs. What can I do that I can like really exhibit my passion and teach people? So I said, why don't I create my own Instagram account? So I did. I created my own Instagram account it was first called Samson's Financial Advice, but now it's called Finance with Samson. And so basically the way I started was every day I posted what had happened in the markets and like individual things. And it kind of evolved to me kind of sharing my process, sharing the evolution of my like trading strategies, my investment theses. And now basically what I do is like when there's something important that I think everyone should learn or think about, I do one master post on one concept. I post it, I share it, and people like when I do that because they get to learn about something they may not have thought about or may not have known about that I did in-depth research on, spent some time creating a post on, and I put my thoughts out right there and then, and people see it. People ask me about these topics like outside. And it invokes conversation and it allows people to learn how to like practically start to think about investing.
That's a super interesting story. Seems like Mr. Fernandez really knew his stuff.
Yeah.
Because he got you interested in that, right?
Yeah, so it was so funny because like a teacher like that, teachers have a lot of power. That's another part that I want to talk about. Like the things that teachers say, or a good teacher can really impact people's lives. Like for me, like some of the best teachers I've had have changed the way I've thought about like my life, where I'm going, where I'm headed.
Yeah.
So like I think for myself to serve as that role, a teaching role, is very powerful because I feel that like, for example, this week, like I got up in front of the stock trading club and I taught. I felt like I was impacting the minds of 30 to 40 people at once. So like that degree of leverage is very powerful because by posting on Instagram, I'm not just teaching one person, I'm teaching 500 people who actually care about what I have to say and actually want to look at what I'm posting. So I think like that's one of the most powerful parts of teaching. Like the first part that's powerful is that it helps me learn because if it's something I'm interested in, I do research. The second is because I'm responsible for other people, I feel pressure or I feel a responsibility to learn the topic that I'm teaching about.
I think that's a good way to learn. When you know you've got responsibility to learn, because in classes, you need that motivation, right? Your biggest motivation might be, hey, I want an A in that class. That's probably it. But if you're on like a club and you're teaching people, you have so much power, but at the same time, that responsibility. So I 100% agree that, some teachers can change the way you think. Some of the greatest professors I had, one of my professors, he was my mechanics teacher. I'm not even a mechanical engineer. I'm a math and computer science. But I took his class and I loved it so much because he cared about students during the pandemic. He used to come to class every time in person. He used to encourage us to come in person. And I ended up TAing for him. I was not an engineer, but it was just a fun class. It changed the way I think. So, I think it's great that you have the ability to teach people on your Instagram page, and Mr. Fernandez definitely had a good impact on you. Now, going back, I think it's interesting, the story of LaGuardia High School, because you have a lot of actors coming out, but you started your own investment club, and that's a big accolade on its own. But what I really found interesting was when you mentioned the drummer. He's like, I need to make another like source of passive income so that I can continue my passion. And it ties up into so many other things, right? Like people have so many passions, and money is such a big factor that sometimes they just can't, spend time on themselves. Going to therapy is expensive. Being a starving artist is expensive. So learning that financial knowledge, I think it's becoming super important. And I really feel like it's the pandemic and like just towards the end of the decade of the 2010s, people really started to, pay attention to finance. But what do you think? Why do you think it's imperative for schools to teach you finance at a young age?
That's a good question. So as you were saying that, I was thought of something else. What's more valuable than money? Time. Time is the most valuable commodity because we only have a limited amount of days, hours, minutes, seconds on this earth. How do you want to spend that time? A lot of people have to spend that time doing things they don't like. They have to go to I'm actually going to reference this podcast that I listened to. No pun intended, we're on a podcast with
Go for it.
Naval Ravikant. I think he's the founder of AngelList. A friend of mine introduced me to this podcast. He did a podcast with Joe Rogan, actually. So one of the most interesting things he said was that one, time is the most valuable commodity. And if you have to go somewhere, wear a specific thing, and listen to a specific person, you're not truly a free person. So that's like a very interesting concept.
That's something to think about.
Yeah, investing, financial literacy is not only something that is important, but is essential, because if you don't know how to manage your finances, you have to depend on other sources to get your money. And if other people have control of how you make money and how you survive, you are not a free person. You're at the whim of somebody else that has to tell you what to do and how to do it. And that's something that a lot of people who don't get control of the finances have to do, and they can't avoid it. So you hear a lot of people saying, I hate my job, I hate my life, I hate this. I'm doing something I don't want to do with a boss that I hate that treats me horribly, but I don't have any other options because this is what I went to school for. I have no way of setting up my own thing. I have a family, I have this, I have to put food on the table. But the other thing is this: if you're young, right, you don't have any of those things yet. But what do have? You have energy, you have time, you have resources, you have motivation. So if you start young, let's say right now I'm 19, you start when you're 19, building the dividend income. So dividends are very important because dividend income is you can invest in a stock and they'll pay you once a month just to hold the stock. You're getting money every month just to hold the stock. Now the stock can go this way, that way, it can go down, you could lose money, but while you're holding the stock, you're getting cash flow. So cash flow is so important because what can you do with cash? You can pay bills, you can do this, you can do that. What can happen is that there's one ETF that I invest in. An ETF, by the way, is an exchange traded fund. It's one stock that you invested with a lot of different stocks in it. So this one ETF that I invest in pays me around 77 cents a month now. And I have a bi-weekly investment. So every month I'm going to get paid more and more money as I invest more and more, and I reinvest that dividend. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that 77 cents could be whatever, $100, $200 a month, just passively. What can I use that money for? Pay my grocery bills, pay this, pay that. There's less stuff that I have to pay for. More money for me to do whatever I want with, spend however I want, spend on people I care about, spend on things I want to do. So that's the thing. One of the most limiting resources or one of the things that hold people back the most is the fact that they don't have enough money to do the things that they want. And that's very important to have. The money that you need to do the things that you want, and have the time that you need to do that stuff. Because time is something that most people don't have enough of.
You know, I really like the fact that you mentioned that, when people don't have money, they get stuck in a job because they have responsibilities, right? You put food on the table, you have a family to take care of, or you just can't find another job. So you do something you hate for money, but in the end, you're not happy. And as you mentioned, you're not a free man anymore. Free man, woman, them. So it's obviously important to have financial literacy, but how important do you think it is to teach that in high schools? Because I know before we started recording, you were talking to Mike, and Mike mentioned that his high school taught health education, and I'm pretty sure every school in the country, you have some sort of health education about how to have safe sex, or how to take care of your body. Everybody has to go to those gym classes, wear those crappy gym shorts, but it's not financial education that they're teaching. And why do you think they should add that as something as important as health education?
So that's a great question. And I say this to everyone. When I talk about financial education, I talk about health education. And here's what I say. So like in health class, so Mike was telling me he went to one of the most underfunded schools in the entire country. Like underfunded. They don't have money for this, don't have money for that. But they had money for a health education program. But there wasn't any sort of, most schools is a health education program, PE mandatory. So here's the narrative that I think that exists right now with the why we need health education. Like kids are like having babies at a young age because maybe, or getting certain STDs because they don't know certain things. They are just young, they don't have experience, they're going to do this, do that. But so the narrative right now, and what a lot of parents tell their kids, like, I'm too young to be a grandparent. Like, we don't have the money for you. If you have a kid, we don't have the money to do it. Or like they get stuck in situations where, for example, they have a kid and they have no education. So in order to, for example, put food on the table, they have to take some job that they don't want at all just to put food on the table for their kid. They don't have the money for college, don't have the money for this, don't have the money for that, because there's no structures in place, especially a lot of underserved communities. There's no structures in place. So like what I think though is, if like I had health education personally in 6th grade, that was in 2014, 2015. If I had started investing in 2014, 2015, that would have been 8 years of compounded growth. Let's say you have 8 years of compounded growth, you're investing in a dividend paying stock, you're investing in this, putting money in this, putting money in that. You could at least have some sort of structure in place. So at least you can say, okay, if this were to happen, let's say somehow I have a kid, or this, or the turn of events is unexpected, and your girlfriend's significant other gets pregnant, you don't have to say we have to get an abortion, we have to do this because of the fact that we don't have money. The fact that you have control of your finances makes it so you maybe could have the option to, for example, have a kid at a young age. So introducing financial education as just as an important class as health education can change the narrative of how you can have kids, when you could have kids, the types of things that you can do. Because like I said, time is the most valuable commodity. What does having control of your finances allow you to do in this case? Have a kid. What does that allow you to do? Spend more time with your kid. A lot of people nowadays, they're having kids later. They're waiting because they want to explore their careers. They maybe want to spend more time like learning, more time like jumping around different jobs. The money is not there, for example, to like support a family. But I feel like if we were able to have structures in place, even like parents, for example, investing at an early age in their kids for like investment accounts on their behalf, accumulating dividend income for like 18, 19 years. There can be a source of income. For example, if a person wants to start a family at a younger age, they can still do so, still go to college, still experiment within their career to whatever extent they want without being trapped by the fact that there's not enough money to do so. And I don't know, does that make sense? Or
Yeah, I think, you bring up an interesting point that, we're not encouraging anybody to get kids.
oh yeah,
at a
yeah,
young
yeah,
age.
no,
By the
no,
way,
no, no,
that's just an example, by the way, Samson. But obviously there was a huge issue in the 80s and 90s when I think it was like 1 in 5 women that were getting pregnant under the age of 25, which was scary, and that's why they included health education in the curriculum so that you're practicing safe sex, you're not having kids when you're young. And I'm kind of curious. You said that if you got like health education in the 6th grade, but you wished if you had gotten financial education that you would have had like about 8 years of compounded growth in your portfolio. I feel like kids are too young when they're in the 6th grade, or just like 14, 15. You don't even know what you want to do the next day, or I mean, let alone you're not even thinking about your life at that time.
yes, that's
You're
true.
too immature, right? So, I mean, in the stock market, it's brutal. People that start even at the age of 25, or, you might be 45, 50, 60. And if you just start investing 100%, you're going to lose some money at least once.
Okay,
Everybody says that. I mean, I don't know how true that is.
that's a good point. But so maybe I can like pose it this way. When I was younger, my parents signed me up for karate. I went to the I don't know if you call it a dojo or the karate studio every single week. I learned the skills, I learned the customs, I learned this, and I learned that. And right now, I am not doing karate anymore. I don't care about any of that stuff. But many of like the disciplinary things still stick with me. So one of the things that I like to think about investing is it's not just like financial management, but it's emotional management. It's like you said, stock market can be brutal. It can go this way, it can go that way, it can go that way. One of the most valuable things that I've gained from learning about the stock market is I've learned how to control my emotions. So like maybe a few years back, I was a very emotional person. There, like a lot of times I may overreact to this, overreact to that. By learning about investing and learning about how things like the importance of staying calm, like I've learned other skills that have helped me in other areas that have nothing to do with investing. This
You
is
bring
what
up a super interesting point, because I know I've felt that, especially like let's say you're in a bull market, you're just feeling good, stocks going up, your portfolio's going up. In a bear market, that's when you test the retail investors, and 9 out of 10 retail investors are just like people like you and I. It's like average people investing like $5,000-6,000 in the market. By the way, I've seen that people get scared as soon as the stock market dips, as soon as one of their stocks is in the red, they sell. They want to cut their losses, and it's an emotional thing. You get that gush of blood to the head. You release serotonin when good things are happening, when it's all in the green, and as soon as it goes in the red, you start to sell. So I definitely know what you mean by emotional management, because I've known you since freshman year. Actually, we met in the second week of your freshman year. I was a sophomore back then, and I've seen you over a year and a half now, and you've definitely become a lot more mature person emotionally. We have a lot of deep conversations, which is, I can attest to that fact. So tell me this. When you say you want to teach kids, in the 6th grade, 7th grade, you want to make them financially literate. Do you mean like, you don't mean to like say that we're just going to throw them in the stock market?
no. Like, okay, so here's what I meant when I said emotions management. Like there's other stuff that kids can benefit from learning about investing. So what one of the things that we can teach about if we were to implement these financial programs, like financial literacy programs, like how do you control yourself in an environment that's stressful? That's related to mental health. We don't have many mental health resources in schools. We don't have much mental health, whatever. Finance, And learning about finance in many ways is mental health education. Because if you don't understand how to control yourself, you're going to make dumb decisions. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. With money, it's the stakes are higher. This is real money in real situations. A lot of times though, when it comes to like, especially in middle school, those social interactions, like a lot of kids who maybe feel depressed, feel this, they don't know how to express themselves and they don't know how to control their emotions. So like a lot of people, like you see a lot of violence from teenage violence because like, for example, jealousy, anxiety, depression, these emotions don't have anywhere to go because the kids don't know how to control them. So like, I'll give you an example. Like one of my favorite investors of all time is Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is someone that I think everyone should check out. If you know me well, I can't stop talking about Ray Dalio.
I can attest to that.
Yes, exactly. Everyone knows I can't stop talking about Ray Dalio.
Every couple days I meet this guy, he's like, "Oh, did you read this book by Ray Dalio?"
He's so good though, because I'll tell you why. When I got into when I first started at BU, like I kind of was like, I didn't really have much to do. So one of the books that I brought with me from home was Principles by Ray Dalio. So like, I was like, oh, let me pick it up. I pick it up. Basically, in a nutshell, what this book is about like, okay, the world exists in cycles. Most things that have happened or that are happening now have happened before. So like, let's say you're having a kid for the first time, or like you're taking a test, for example, like the SAT. It may be your first time doing these things, but someone else has done it, and then someone else before them has done it, someone before them has done it. So it's like what you can do is you can kind of create principles for different situations, which I've done personally. So like saying, if this situation arises, here's how I should act. I shouldn't act based on my emotions. I should act based on logic, and I have it written down here on how I should respond to this particular situation and the way I should think about it. Because if you have that, you can kind of have a general rule book for how to live your life, and it makes it so that life is a lot less like jumbled around in your mind, and it's more of like a collective thing. One of the things he says has been the most important thing has been transcendental meditation. So transcendental meditation is like, you can do it in different ways. Like personally, I like to do it in a guided fashion where I watch a video and I listen. But like basically the whole point of it is sitting in a room and you just try to like filter out your thoughts. You try to stay quiet and like let your thoughts pass. Because in our minds, there's a lot going on. You can be stressed about this, and that. What transcendental meditation lets you do is it lets you, one, get rid of those thoughts, and it helps you slow down. Like a lot of times I find my mind moves very quickly, but like when I meditate, for example, it makes it so that my mind is not moving so quickly. It's moving slower and I can actually think logically. So
there's a word for that, right? It's like reset mode
Yeah.
That's why they say it's good to be bored sometimes, because it's that time when you're bored and you're not doing anything, you plan most of the most important decisions of your life.
Or like in the shower, for example, like one of the things, like, or if you go on a run, like you're doing one thing, you're not doing so much at once. You can think in ways that you can't think when you're doing this, that, going from class to class. And also it's like a lot of times, like in life, stressful things happen that like you didn't exactly know were gonna happen. It makes you upset. But like if you develop a set of principles for your life, these things will become less of a big deal. Because for me, like one of my weaknesses in the past has been like I put so much emphasis on like this and that and this happening and that happening. The stock market, you can't put emphasis on this happening and that happening, because if you do, you can be in a position where you can lose a lot of money. In life, you have to be the same way. You have to diversify. You have to say, if this event happens in my life, will it hurt me so much to the point that I can't function? If that's the case, then you're placing too much emphasis. So like for me, it's all about learning how to filter out those thoughts and like understanding that most things happen over and over and over again. So like, even though it might be in a different way, the general situation is probably similar. So there's no point in placing so much emphasis on specific things when they probably, one, will happen again, and two, have happened in the past.
I think that happens with wars as well, right? Especially during this time, like, humans have been fighting since, we could move, right? Like, as soon as humans start to move, they're like, all right, we're gonna kill each other so that we can prove we're the strongest. Now, I mean, Russia and Ukraine, I mean, we had wars in Bosnia, Rwanda. I mean, this is peacetime, right? Ever since World War II ended, but we had the Vietnam War, we had the Korean War, so it's pretty relevant what Ray Diallo says, that everything moves in circles. We have
Yes.
bull markets and bear markets.
Most of the time, all the crashes have happened for the same reason. There's way too much credit, and the credit comes to a point where it's hard to maintain. The central bank of said country, you can literally put like a placeholder here, like the central bank of this country raised rates to control it, and the market reacted in a way that was in an according fashion where it went down. And then things got bad to the point where people got panicked. The central bank steps in, lowers rates. People get confident again. The same thing over and over and over.
It's like cycles of stimulation and then cycles of tightening. So
the water wars happen. Okay, like you're jealous because you have you have this land that I want, that and literally you can say X country had X land that I wanted, and so how did I get it? How do I get it? Okay, I have to invade them. Sound familiar?
Of course, every single
apply it to anything.
1939.
China and Taiwan.
Yeah, it's so relevant. Every single country on the planet. You look at their history of wars, it has to be something over material possession. So
take a step back, right? If we're educating people about this stuff,
yeah.
And now and I'm saying financial education, but you introduce those aspects of education. You're getting that in the brains of young people. What can you prevent in the future?
You can prevent wars, actually, because if you know how to wow, Samson is teaching me finance right now.
So that's why I say
I trade on my free time, by the way. You and I talk about that a lot. I do have a portfolio, by the way, for those of you listening. I'm not complete demo when it comes to investing.
Oh no, Arkash, he's very smart.
Cash is my nickname, by the way.
Yeah, I call him Cash for anyone.
It's only close friends that call me Cash, so you're good.
Oh, okay, yeah, he knows a great deal of knowledge. Like he's definitely told me a lot that I didn't know before. So but yeah, I think personally, if we can bring that in there, a lot of parents sign their kids up for stuff that the kids don't do anymore, but the value still exists. So even if kids are not exactly setting up the portfolios, that's fine. But as long as the values are there and the fact that they understand what they're learning is there, and there's some general exposure, that's way better than what we have now, which is absolutely nothing.
Oh, I always wished I had financial education growing up. I took some economics classes in high school, but there was no club in my high school, or it's the same with most of my friends, that no one taught us, hey, there's this thing known as stock market where you can, invest in stocks, build passive income, learn to control your emotions, learn research, because if you do good research on stocks, some stocks might be undervalued and you might be sitting on a gem to boost your portfolio, but all those things, I personally wish I learned them before, and I know your Instagram page teaches that. So I think, you're absolutely right that it's critical, and I'd say imperative, for schools to implement financial education. And now you're in college.
Yes.
So what's your plan, going forward? I know you have big plans about how finance is biased, and you're obviously in the stock trading club.
Okay,
Talk more about that.
So one of the things that I also wanted to come on here and talk about is the gender disparity that exists in finance, and the fact that, okay, if you think about finance, you think about investment banking, a lot of people picture or you think about who'd be into it. A lot of people mainly picture, men in maybe their mid-30s that have a Patagonia vest on, khakis, slick back hair. That's the general image.
You sure that's not me? Minus the 30 years?
Well, I don't want to comment on that, but well, I think that's the general picture. so one of the things that like I feel like needs to change is the narrative of who can invest. That's one of the things. Like health education, everybody needs it because at the end of the day, everybody needs to be healthy. They need to eat the right way. They need to have safe sex. They eventually, most people are going to start families, so they need to understand the risks involved with, for example, having sex, etc. So like I think that financial education should be the same way. It shouldn't be this thing that people have to seek out. Like you said, there were no clubs at your school. It shouldn't be something that people have to seek out. Like imagine if health education was something that people had to seek out. So that there's a few people like in a school or in a society that oh wow, like we know that there's something called AIDS that we have to make sure that we don't get.
Or
Well, and everyone else.
Obesity crisis right now in this country. Even obesity is
Yeah.
a big thing. You need to go to those gym classes.
But imagine like if there are only a few people saying, "Oh wow, this is important," and nobody else knows about it because they're like, well, we don't need to. What's the point? Imagine if there was only a few people that knew about AIDS and how dangerous they are.
Yeah, you'd be screwed. So
finance is exactly that. Right now, there's like, well, especially with young people, there's like, there's people that get it, but the vast majority don't get it. And I don't know. I like if I were to put numbers on it, maybe I would say 5 to 10% get it. 90% don't know about it, don't care, don't think they need to care.
But they should care about
exactly.
it. So that's your mission at the moment, right?
Yeah,
like, stock trading club, and
yeah,
all your financial clubs and your Instagram page.
So I want to make it something that people don't have to seek out, but that they're given in a fashion that is not required or feels mandatory, but in a fashion that is like, well, I didn't think about this before, but now that I'm learning about it, it's very interesting. That's all you need. Like I said, a good teacher is the most important thing. How do people learn about anything? They have to be introduced to it. Like there's no system right now that's actually introducing people to it. So like that's what I think my goal is. My goal is to introduce more people to financial education. And I've been doing it. Like I stand up in front of the stock trading club, I teach, I talk to people afterwards. Sometimes I spend over an hour talking to one person because like I see promise in them. I see that they can be successful, but like they're like just starting and maybe they don't understand certain concepts, but I spend the time to explain because like that's what I think is the most important. Like a person that cares about you, that actually cares to explain it to you and cares that you get it. Because like that's like I said, most people don't get it. So like we need to make it so that like there are people that are willing to like take people by the hand and say, this is how the stock market works. You can be successful in it. So like I'll bring back to my conversation about like the general image. It's mostly men. Like there's a lot of girls. Like I had an internship this summer. We had a guest speaker at the internship. She said to us, name a company that you like and why you like it. So everybody answered, and at the end of it, she was like, you know what I noticed? So like most of this group is guys. That was like the obvious. But out of all and there were maybe 4 to 5 girls there. She said, out of everybody here, when I asked you to name a company, all the guys had an answer. None of the guys said, I don't know, I'm not sure. All of the girls did. She said, why is that? Like there's a certain level of confidence that isn't there. So that's what we need to get. Like I feel like a lot of women or girls, young women, like especially those in college, high school, feel like maybe I can't do this career path because it's full of, men in Patagonia vests with khakis and slick back hair. This is not saying that there aren't young women that are interested in it. There are a lot, but the vast majority are not. So this is what I aim to achieve, or I think is important. I think that we need to make it so that we're getting more girls into it, more girls feeling like confident enough that they can do it. Because the barriers to entry for retail investing is very low. Like,
so you want to democratize it.
Right? Yeah.
You want like everybody, minorities, women, non-binaries, like everybody who's not a guy wearing Patagonia vests, khakis, and slick hair. Not me, by the way. But you want more diverse people to come into financing. That's a fantastic goal.
And also, we were talking before, this can also change the narrative on relationships because like in relationships, most of the time in today's society, it's the man that makes the money. So in a lot of toxic relationships, for example, a lot of women especially feel like they can't leave a certain situation because there's no way, because like they're with someone that's a main money provider that does this and does that. And if they were to leave, that they wouldn't have that anymore. So I think what we need to, another thing that financial education can solve is it can change narratives around there. Because let's say there's a woman who, or there's a couple, it's a toxic relationship, the woman won't feel so inclined to stay if finances are such a big issue. So it will bring the confidence back to women, young women especially in America, to say, you know what, like I have control of my finances. I don't have to make this decision because I have to depend on someone else to make the money. Like that's why I think it's important, because the thing that's not there is not a general ability. Anybody can do it. It doesn't matter what gender, where you're from, how smart you are. Warren Buffett even said, if you have a 190 IQ and you want to be investing, donate like 30 points to someone else. You don't, there's no real requirement. But the one thing that's lacking is confidence. So that's what I also want to bring. Like I want to democratize finance, and the way I want to do it is by helping people gain confidence, talking to like especially girls, young women, finding people that may also be able to communicate, to work with me, to say, you know what, like you can do it too. This is not something that is out of your reach. It's something you can do, and it's actually something that is essential to you. Like
as we've talked about for the last 45 minutes. That's
I'm gonna bounce out of here so I don't break up any conversation. I feel like this is a good lull, but pleasure meeting you. I'm sure I'll see you again.
oh yeah, sure.
catch you later, Mike.
Yeah.
I'll edit this out.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you know
about
the
that.
timestamp of this?
You got about 43 minutes. Right
43
now. I'll send
minutes.
you the whole list of things I got.
All right, I'll tell Sam about that. All right.
Yeah.
Have a
See you
good
guys.
day, buddy. We'll talk later.
Yeah.
All right.
So, going back to business. So we took this short break, but now Samson, you obviously have big plans, and I know that you're super passionate about finance, getting more women through the door, teaching people from like different backgrounds and different ethnicities. I should mention that you're super fluent in Chinese, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we were actually, Sam was, one of our friends, Sam Lee, he was talking to Samson in Chinese. He was actually impressed by his Chinese, so you should check it out. Samson's a white guy, by the way.
Oh yeah. So like,
yeah, but I guess conclusively, what would be your advice to, let's say a freshman listening, or, anybody listening to this podcast right now who wants to invest, who wants to start doing it? How should they start investing, and what would be, go for it. What's your advice?
that this is a question that everybody asks me, that a lot of people ask me. I've gotten over 78 questions. I made a post about it on my Instagram, Finance with Samson, and my LinkedIn about how to get started. I think anyone can get started. It's very easy. The first thing you should do is learn about the basics. So there's a great YouTube video that Netflix actually produced. It's called like Stock Market Explained. This will teach you what the stock market is, how a stock works. Like there's also a great website called Investopedia where you can read the basics. They explain it in a great way, like very easy to understand. What is the stock market? How does it work? How can you start? So just learn the fundamentals. After you learn the fundamentals, understand the economic machine. So Ray Dalio, who is one like my trading hero, as I mentioned, he has a video called like The Economic Machine Explained. He basically says this is how the economic cycle works, where this is how interest rates will affect the stock market and how you can play the machine. Because like once you understand the machine, you can invest, you can understand when to invest, how to invest, and how to play the cycles. That's very important. Like the third thing you need to do is you need to develop your mindset. So the mindset, I said, is the most important thing. Investing in many ways is emotional management. It's not it's financial asset management. It is also emotional management. Learn how to manage your emotions. Like look at yourself. Say, are there things that I do that aren't so great? Am I impatient? Am I anxious? Am I over this? Do I overthink things? Like if any of that is the case, either you think about ways you can use that to your advantage, or think about ways you can get rid of it. So one of the things that's great is transcendental meditation, or like TM. Like, you can look it up. It's great because it helps you slow things down, and it helps you filter out those emotions that you may have issues controlling. So that's like the third thing. And I think like the fourth thing you should do is you should use like trading simulators. Thinkorswim is a great trading simulator. It lets you get hands-on experience without actually doing it. So like Market Watch 2 simulation, like learn how to place orders, do this, do that. And like the last thing that I think is the best thing to understand is don't get complacent. So understand that like your strategy has to always evolve. You have to always be changing things. Like, don't just, even if as soon as you hit success, don't think that it's a straight line up from there. A lot of times it's like up, down. You will fail. You also like be patient, be determined, be motivated. Don't quit just because you see red numbers mean you're losing money on your computer screen. So like you have to be, as with anything, you have to be persistent, you have to be willing to learn, open-minded, and understand the fundamentals. So that's my advice to everybody that I talk to on like how to get started and how you should get started right now. Because like I said, the barriers to entry are very low. All these resources are free. You don't have to pay for any of this. There's no class. Don't sign up. You don't need to sign up for any crash course where you pay all this money to like learn the basic stuff. It's all online for free. It's on YouTube for free. It's on like wherever for free. You don't have to pay for it, and anybody can access it.
It's on his page as well, actually. So
Oh yeah.
for anybody interested, check out Samson's Instagram page, and we'll put a link to some of the resources he mentioned in the description of this video. But Samson, it's been a pleasure talking to you, buddy. We have learned a lot about financial education today and why it matters.
Yes, I appreciated talking to you, and yeah, for anyone, my Instagram will be linked to this video, and yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, Arkash, and I hope to maybe be on in the future.
Absolutely, you know, my portfolio is in the red too, but I'm holding some stocks for now. I'm not a risky investor. I like to play it safe. But this has been episode 17 of the STU STREET Podcast with Samson Abrams. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Bye.